2025 has not been a good year for bookish events, and unfortunately, Sinners and Stardust really wasn't any different. But this time, it wasn't the convention's fault. My name is Taylor Rose, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about everything reading and writing. Today, we're talking about Sinners and Stardust, a dark romance book convention. This convention seems to move around, but the one we're talking about took place August 15th to 17th in Boston, Massachusetts. Just personally, going off of their social media, they look like a really well-developed convention. People in general seem to have a positive opinion of this convention as well. It seems to be an event that is well-run, well-organized, and isn't a scam. But unfortunately, this weekend didn't quite go as planned. H.T. Carlton, who is a pretty big name in the dark romance scene. She is the author of the Haunting Adeline duology, which personally that's not to my taste, but she seems to have kind of a cult following in the dark romance community. She posted after returning from the event screenshots from her Instagram, and in this post she explains some pretty terrible things that went down at Sinners and Stardust. All right, y'all, it appears I have to make a post that I'm frankly pretty upset I have to make. This post is for the readers who don't understand consent and boundaries only. A lot of you may know a good friend of mine, Animus, who is also Ethereal Treason. He has attended a signing of mine in the past, and obviously is a music artist. This past weekend, he attended Sinners and Stardust and probably had one of the most heartbreaking experiences. So listen, he's a man, right? But do we think that means it's okay to put your hands all over him without consent? Or to put your hands in his waistband or down his pants? Or touch his personal areas? Do we think it's okay to quite literally back him into a corner and touch all over him to the point that he literally cannot tell how many hands are on him and whose are whose? Do we think it's okay to send him into an actual panic attack because of this? Furthermore, do we think it's okay to interrogate him and insist he detail how he'd kidnap a woman, despite him repeatedly saying he wouldn't, and that, this shit is fiction? Trash talk my books to him and try to get him to join in, and then attempt to follow him when he tries to get away? He had sweat-resistant black paint airbrushed on his chest and was told the only thing that will move it is body oils. Why did this man end the night with almost all of it rubbed off and a handprint smeared across his chest? I want y'all to seriously sit with yourselves and your actions and ask yourself if you would be okay with a strange man doing that to you. And if that wasn't bad enough, during the time of this mob, him and another author received a notification that an AirTag was tracking him, which showed it on his person all the way to his hotel room. He knows how AirTags work and that close by ones can trigger notifications, but this was not the case. Also, he got the notification way later because he had no signal at the event, and it didn't come through until he got signal again. That is literally sickening, and I am ill that someone might have planted a tracking device on him. You guys do know that these books are fiction, right? We enjoy these books because they're fiction. We do not condone these actions in real life, and while it's okay to act out your fantasies consensually with a trusted adult, it is not okay to ask a complete stranger to do so, or to take it upon yourselves to sexually assault him. I am so incredibly disappointed that he was treated this way. I brought him into this space because I trusted that he would be safe with y'all, and the fact that he wasn't is quite eye-opening, and boy, does this affect my decisions for my own future attendances. Especially because he was not the only one disrespected at this event by a long shot. So many authors are coming out about people crossing boundaries in a multitude of ways. I've had to have this conversation before about asking my husband gross personal questions, so why are we taking it a step further and assaulting people now? I'm genuinely shocked that as women or women presenting, some of y'all thought it was okay to act this way. And as someone who brought him into this space, I feel responsible for him, and I'm so sad that some of my own readers were a part of this behavior. If this was you, please learn basic respect, boundaries, and how to ask for consent. Treat others the way you would want to be treated by a strange man. And for the love of God, please do not ever come near me in public. And then really tiny, it's the fencing emoji. So she reposted this message from her Instagram to Threads, with an additional message. I think one of the saddest parts is a lot more was done and said to him, including someone messing with his phone. He handed it to a few people to take pictures, and restricting several authors' accounts on Instagram, including mine, Santana's, and Bryn's, along with literally dragging him around to take pictures and asking him what hotel he's staying in. He lied and said it was the same hotel as the event, but it was not, which is why the AirTag tracking him downtown into his room was terrifying. That is absolutely insane. Another attendee of the event posted, "Unfortunately, the actions of some may force me to put a pause to attending future events so that I can prioritize the safety of my assistants. Thank you, HD Carlton, for being our voice." So you can see that this is a picture of Animus, the man who was assaulted, as well as the other author. KL Albayati responded, "As someone who's been to conventions and expos since 2007, I'm surprised, but not surprised, that this kind of behavior has made its way into the bookish community. I've heard horror stories of people breaching physical and social boundaries with celebrities and cosplayers simply because they're famous or wearing a certain costume, or think it is somehow not that bad because they're nerds. It's never okay." I mean, this has been a big issue in the cosplay community, especially. Lexi Const responded, "I was going to say, unfortunately, this is con behavior and it's gross." KL Albayati responded to her, "Unfortunately, I think many people believed the bookish community would be better than that because books, in theory, make people empathetic, and because romance in particular is so female-oriented. Easy to forget sometimes that women can easily be predatory and problematic like men." Red Jilt 55 added, 8 years ago, I got into it with a bunch of other women in a fan group on Facebook because I dared argue that no one should lick the attractive male author's face during a book signing. I also got ignored for suggesting that women should not go up to a strange man and run their fingers through his hair without permission. This has been a problem for a long time now, almost like people in general don't understand consent. Yeah, apparently not. That is so crazy. One thing that gets me though is that Sinners and Stardust themselves have posted pictures like this one. I'm sure you can guess what's going on. And while I understand that they are both consenting adults who presumably, given their facial expressions, agreed to this beforehand and weren't caught by surprise, there are so many TikToks, if you go look up Sinners and Stardust, of people simulating bedroom activities in public, not even in like a photo area or something. Like, I get it, you want to be funny, whatever. I know I, as a guest, would feel really uncomfortable if I were just walking around what's obviously the hotel lobby and see people doing stuff like this. Another person who was at the convention reports really similar things happened to her husband. Sinful Shelves says, "Y'all did that shit to Animus, and one of y'all asked my husband to do weird shit in the 5 minutes I was away from him at the ball, which I'm not disclosing for my husband's privacy, and I left halfway through. I can't imagine what else people did that hasn't even been brought up, but I'm so angry." To be clear too, this is not to take away from what happened to Animus. This is to say, y'all showed your asses, and I'm so upset for my husband, for Animus, and for anyone else who endured things they should not have had to endure. A Court of Books and Beasts says this: "My partner went to stand in the corner and let me enjoy dancing with some other people. In that time, 3 women approached him and one put her hands on him, and that's when he decided to join me again. Sis lucky I didn't see it or she would have caught these hands." I especially can't imagine going up to someone who isn't even engaging with people. I thought it was a universal sign of leave me alone when you're standing against a wall, not talking to anybody. She adds later, "He was literally carrying my high heels in his hands during this, and yet someone thought it was appropriate to grope his chest. Lucky for her, we did not see her again." And tons of attendees are bringing up things that they saw. Author Lee Rivers says, "Sinners was phenomenal and I loved meeting everyone. However, can we please respect an author's boundaries? I was groped multiple times at the ball. I was dragged away from my friends, and no matter how many times I said no, my words did nothing. As soon as I left, I couldn't stop crying. Please respect boundaries and consent." Weed with Han Han said, "I hope whoever was flashing authors and attendees their strap-on at Sinners and Stardust feels extremely embarrassed and uncomfortable right now scrolling threads, because what the actual F? I hope we get a name so we can all collectively block you." Fantasy Rants says, "We can talk about Sinners and Stardust and say people have no home training and no boundaries and consent was learned as children, but genuinely, I need you to be more outraged that multiple people were sexually assaulted. Multiple people were sexually assaulted. This is horrifying. It's not a shake your head and gasp moment. A man had a tracker placed on him after being groped by multiple people. Authors were kissed and groped by multiple people." My Name is Marines says, "If we're going to have the conversation about consent and the sexual harassment that reportedly happened this weekend at Sinners and Stardust, I'd like to draw the line all the way back to summoning book talk comment sections, harassing hockey players, and recommending spicy books to minors, because so many of these conversations get shut down by the community at large, and the inability to respect boundaries and distinguish fact from fiction is not unexpected outcome." So if you're unaware, the summoning book talk comment, obviously, is found pretty much on TikTok. Primarily, it's being used to harass people. For example, with all the hockey romance that has been coming out in the last few years, there would be an attractive hockey player and they'd say summoning book talk, and their comment sections would be flooded with people making really inappropriate comments. Even on posts that include their wives and children, which is a choice. We can see in the screenshot that the well-read nurse posted that this woman in particular was probably seen the most out of all the inappropriate behavior. The well-read nurse says, being at a romance book conference is not an excuse to sexually assault people. Showing off sex toys to unsuspecting humans is sexual assault. So you can see that the woman in this video has a strap on under her ball gown, and she's opening her ball gown and showing it to people. You can find other videos of her where people were putting it in their mouths. She was poking people with it, taking it out in photos when no one else in the photo was aware of it. So kind of like photobombing people with it. Crazy behavior. Before she deleted her threads and her Instagram, she did post an apology, which people are saying is bullshit. So Jilly reads, the perpetrator with the strap on, posted her apology. Here to hold myself accountable. I am deeply, deeply sorry from the bottom of my heart to anyone who I made uncomfortable or hurt at the ball. I really truly was not thinking clearly, and I was ignorant to the fact that it would hurt some. Something I thought was just harmless fun, where a lot of others did as well, would not be viewed the same as everyone else. It will never happen again. Being human, we make mistakes and we learn from them. I promise this was a teaching moment. It was in no way me trying to be malicious, but I see that it was. I did not mean to be that person in any way, shape, or form, and I hate that I did that to anyone attending the dance. Please forgive me. I cannot say how sorry I am enough. Almost immediately, people started responding. Arissa Lim, 66, said, I'm confused how and why you thought these behaviors would be okay in the first place. Like, it's sexual harassment. I just want to know, what kind of life do you live that you think it's appropriate to whip out sex toys in public? I would hope that everyone knows that that's unacceptable. Love Like Whiskey points out, okay, so we already have one admission from one of the women who harassed multiple guests. Apparently, she was wearing a strap-on and pulled her dress up to flash others, while pictures of their reactions were taken without their consent. She also happened to be a volunteer for the event. Event volunteers are supposed to be responsible for making people feel safe and fun. They're not supposed to be responsible for sexually harassing people. I don't even have words. And yeah, I would expect that, at minimum, the volunteers should have been instructed to report any questionable behavior they saw. I can understand not confronting it yourself if you're uncomfortable, but going to report it to one of the people running the event or security or something. Jenna Louise Skinner, author, asks, have the organizers of Sinners and Stardust said anything about all of this yet? I realize they're not responsible for the bad behavior of attendees, but they should at least address it. And Lexi Reads Dark's book posts screenshots from Sinners and Stardust's Instagram. I will say I have seen some complaints that this apology is not very accessible, and I do agree this text is really hard to read. I'm not sure if you can see it at this size, but full size, you can tell that it has like two shadows, a red shadow and a black shadow, like veering off on opposite sides, which gives it, in my opinion, kind of an optical illusion type feel. But the convention's apology says the following. We are endlessly grateful to every single one of you who joined us for Sinners and Stardust, those who respected the heart of this community by asking for consent and honoring personal space. Our mission with Sinners and Stardust has always been to create something rare, a space where the dark romance community can feel safe, celebrated, and free to share their love of the stories that move us most. We need to be absolutely clear. Safety, security, and consent are not just values, they are non-negotiable. No is a complete sentence. Our authors, narrators, vendors, influencers, artists, and special guests are not just names on a book cover or faces on your screen. They are people. Human beings who deserve the same dignity, safety, and respect as every attendee. They give their time, talent, and energy to this community, and in return, we expect every single person in attendance to treat them with the respect they deserve. Moving forward, the following changes will be in place at all Sinners and Stardust events. Masks. Attendees are no longer allowed to wear full masks to any part of our event. No exceptions. And then they list an exception. Medical masks for health and safety are permitted. Entertainment. Entertainment will continue, but roaming interactive entertainers will no longer be a part of the ball. And I really agree with this. You can see a lot of TikTok videos where there was a guy dressed as Pyramid Head going around. There was another guy dressed as a Duskwalker, which is from the Duskwalker Brides series by Opal Rain. Like, I saw several videos of people like rubbing on his body. You know, obviously there's no evidence in the video whether or not he was asked for consent. I'm hoping he was. I think it just puts them at risk not to be in a specific photo area with volunteers monitoring the situation. So their message continues: safety for our guests. Authors, narrators, vendors, their assistants, our influencers, and special guests will now have a secure, dedicated area during the ball with their own security. They may move freely between areas, but all attendees are not permitted in their area under any circumstances. If an attendee is caught trying to go into their secured space, they will be immediately removed and banned from future events. Smaller, safer events. We are decreasing the number of tickets available to ensure a more comfortable, safe, and respectful experience for everyone. These rules are not suggestions, they are expectations. Violations, including harassment, non-consensual touching, photos taken without permission, invasive questions, or any behavior that makes others feel unsafe, will result in immediate removal and a permanent ban from all future Sinners and Stardust hosted events. These events thrive because of passion, creativity, and community. But community cannot exist without respect. Every single attendee has a responsibility to uphold these standards. To anyone affected this weekend negatively, from the bottom of our hearts, we are truly sorry and will work harder to gain your trust back as a safe and inclusive event. To everyone who respected boundaries and helped us uphold the spirit of this community, we're truly grateful. Your care makes all the difference, and we can't wait to welcome you at future events. All of our love, Jen, Bethany, Joy, and Red. Mikachu reads, kind of says what I'm thinking. Wait, so we finally got a book con that was run smoothly and successfully, but this time it's the readers that decided to ruin it for authors? Yep. Miss Nikki01 says, this is the main reason I don't go to cons as either a reader or an author. I have an author friend who doesn't make con appearances anymore because he was constantly being groped and his boundaries violated. A lot of cover models and narrators I've talked to have said the same thing. Male and female. Do better, people. And this reminds me a lot of people cosplaying as anime characters who may have had a scene with even vague innuendo, and people will come up and be like, reenact that scene for me, which I think is wildly inappropriate. So a lot of people are calling for the perpetrators to be named. Rebecca Thorne's Writes says, this Sinners and Stardust BS is incredibly eye-opening, but even worse is that so many authors aren't even surprised by it. The moment social media gave authors direct connection to their readers was the moment these boundaries began to blur. It's now expected that authors have to write a good book, but also engage with readers, answer questions, respond to DMs, make videos, etc., etc. This can be wonderful, but it's also god-awful. As a flight attendant, I know how a service job takes pieces of me, and how necessary it is to rebuild myself between every trip. But here's the kicker. I can't take my flight attendant work home with me. As an author, I'm always on. Always. Even at home, I get emails from my publisher, my editors, my agent, my author friends, booksellers, librarians, readers. My DMs are always filled with people who want to chat. I thought I could keep up, but I'm falling fast. Social media has brought out some of the best in us, and some of the worst. I have so many wonderful readers. I also have had to navigate parasocial relationships for the first time in my life. There's nothing quite so eerie as watching someone act like you're their best friend, even though we don't know each other. Not really. That's why this is so unsettling to me. It's horrific what happened, but it doesn't surprise me. If this shitty thing had to happen, I hope that it at least opens up a discussion about what authors are obligated to do for readers, because in the past, it was write a good book. Now I'm not so sure. And she has some good points. Social media does really blur the boundaries between work and home life for a lot of people in various careers. Rebecca continues, I want to clarify. I've been exceedingly lucky with my readers. They show up at my events and are genuinely the coolest people. But I like to talk about the industry at large, and I've heard the readers who grumble when big name author cuts a signing line short. I know you want your book signed, but that author may literally have not eaten in half a day. They may have a disability or injury that prohibits signing too many books. Or, and this is the biggest one, they may just be tired. Curious to know what other authors think about this. And readers, frankly. Most of you are wonderful, but it's tough to see the undercurrent of expectation at some of these events. Also, adding on, to anyone who was at this con and experienced SA, I am so sorry. No one should have to go through that. To all the readers who conducted themselves appropriately, thank you. Please don't think we're talking about you. To anyone who ignored consent because they felt entitled to act however they wanted, you are the problem. Ivy King author put out a statement because it was discovered that Jill, the strap-on bandit, was actually her PA. Ivy says, I would just like to be crystal clear. Jill is not my PA and hasn't been for months now, but for some reason she has not updated her bio to reflect that. There are many posts circulating concerning her behavior and actions at Sinners and Stardust. Many of us have turned to books in search of a haven, and we all deserve that safe place. I'm so sorry to everyone who was robbed of that security. Please remember not to blame Sinners and Stardust for the actions of some. And please remember to fact check before making accusations. Posts spread faster than wildfire and misinformation can hurt people. So a lot of the discourse surrounding this is about whether or not dark romance itself is encouraging this behavior. Personally, I think it is just a symptom of large groups of people, right? This kind of stuff happens at pretty much every type of convention ever hosted. And while we like to think that people can be adults, some people cannot, especially when there's alcohol involved. The Literary Bee posted, I just read what happened at Sinners and Stardust, and y'all are sick and vile. Some of you have taken reading to such deranged places, it's actually scary, and a huge part of the reason people are asking folks to engage critically with not only what they read, but with the communities they find themselves in. Be aware of it all because it's all connected. There is a line from the "Is it spicy?" under every book rec post to the "Book talk has been summoned" horny comments directed to what happened at SNS. It's entitlement, parasocial, and an inability/refusal to separate fiction from real life and real people. It's weird. Y'all are weird. While I do agree to some extent, I also think that this was kind of a conversation around Violet video games, and unless there's been some update I haven't heard about, it was pretty much determined that it had very little to no impact on the behavior of the people who engage in this content. Melonious Pretty responded, they love to say it's just fiction, but never want to actually look at how what we read shapes our thoughts. I'm not saying dark romance is the issue, but pretending it's harmless just because it's fiction is dishonest. If men were out here openly reading pedo-lit, everyone would be quick to call out the potential for harm. But when it's women reading certain tropes, suddenly it's sacred and beyond criticism. You can see it play out in real life, too. She did go on to make her own separate post. Looks like they're finally starting to understand that the whole dark romance is fiction and thus harmless argument only works when everyone is starting on the same level mental playing field. I'm neither shocked nor amazed at the behavior because if you have seen the TikTok comments, discourse, and book requests across social media, it would be pretty easy to see some folks ain't playing. And I'm not saying not to write it. I'm learning to appreciate dark romance, and there are some excellent writers in the field. But all I see is this puritanical-ass government trying to shut it down because of some bad actors who can't separate fact from fiction. Acknowledging the potential for harm isn't saying it's bad or evil, it's just being realistic about it versus shutting down all conversations. So when she talks about book requests across social media, she was referring to this kind of trend where people will post saying that they don't have any need for content warnings in a disparaging way. There are tons of people who don't need content warnings, but they acknowledge that, oh yeah, it's a necessary thing. It's the polite thing to do as an author if you are talking about problematic issues. But some people will joke about content warnings being a shopping list for the things that they want to read about. I do think it's a little strange. Like, I understand wanting to read certain tropes, but it would be kind of like if someone came up to you and said, oh, I only read slasher films where you see people get cut open. And it's kind of like, you don't enjoy anything else? Ray Davinar posted this screenshot from a conversation she had on Facebook. I absolutely love the dedicated area, not just for added security, but also so I can find and speak with other authors safely and freely, which was admittedly difficult with everyone being in the same area. So this is her comment on the update from the convention itself, but on the Facebook post. And she censored the name, but someone responded, I totally understand what you're saying. As an attendee, I love going to signing events to meet the authors and other attendees, of course, but the authors are the real reason. We stand in your lines for however long, and then finally it's our turn, and we get the 1 to 2 minutes or so while you're signing whatever to say thank you or what you do to bring so much joy to our lives. What I see happening is 2 separate parties going on simultaneously. Authors and everyone with them, and everyone else who can be in this VIP area, and the attendees looking on wishing to how they could have the chance to interact with their favorite authors in this fun environment. You don't know them though. My best memories from author events that have these types of closing out type parties is the time with authors. That is now over. No one's going to want to come out of the VIP area to mingle after this because of what has happened, but also for exactly what you said above. You've literally written what is going to happen. I don't know why you feel entitled to someone's time, even if they are quote unquote a celebrity. The behavior of the few individuals responsible for this is disgusting, and some of it warrants legal ramifications, I'm sure. But the other 99% of the readers with respectful interactions who would never do anything to cross those lines are the ones being punished for their actions, and that just sucks. If I attend SNS next year, I definitely have no interest in a higher price ticket, which I always try to get for the extra perks, but why do I need to do that? I can only meet with authors at their signing tables anyway, and I can do that with the lowest price ticket option. I like how she's acting that it was only 1 or 2 people at the event doing things like this when multiple people have come forward saying that they were being assaulted by groups of attendees. Ray Davenor responded, "I hear you, but respectfully, you said it yourself. You had access to the authors during the signing days, hours upon hours of it. Once the ball hits, once our jobs are over, we deserve to have a chance to relax and unwind in a safe, designated area that's free from interactions from members of the public. If we choose to. Because that's the thing. Authors are now freely allowed to choose when and how we interact with readers of the ball, which is a choice that was denied to us before. This way we have one." And I agree, it seems like a lot of authors go to these events specifically because other authors they know are also attending. Like the implication that they're supposed to work the entire convention and then never get time to themselves is frankly troubling. So Leela Gray Romance kind of summarized everything that happened at Sinners and Stardust. 99% of the weekend, pure smutty joy and chaos. But the 1%, ugly, dangerous, heartbreaking, and it needs to be talked about. Lists of incidents, part 1. Authors were groped, dragged from friends, cornered, and left in tears. A male model had an AirTag slipped into his pants. Someone looked under an author's bathroom stall and waited outside. This isn't fans got too excited. This is harassment. This is assault. Volunteers flashing people in strap-ons and photos taken of reactions without consent. Readers being rude to volunteers and each other. My pre-order bag stolen. Bold but gross. 2 readers snapped at my husband while he manned my table. And yes, some authors and spouses whispering, sulking about lines. The fallout is already here. No masks, no roaming entertainers, no attendee access to authors, vendors, and influencers. But some pluses are security details for authors, smaller events, higher ticket and book prices, permanent bans for harassment, stalking, and assault. So we can see that this is the video that Jilly Reads posted herself.
Yes, baby, yes. Slay queen.
This is a long.
Interesting choice to A, do any of this in the first place, B, post about it. But there are tons of TikToks showing how good the event was. It looks like people were having fun. If you're wondering why I didn't include any other videos or photos or anything, I didn't really want to call out people who were just enjoying themselves. And also there were like dancers in underwear and a lot of the videos featured the strap-on bandit. So, I mean, you can go on TikTok and look, people are having the time of their lives, but it is such a shame that people finally get the kinds of events that they are asking for and are advertised as being able to receive. And then some people being gross really put a damper on it for A, the people who attended, and B, future attendees. I am surprised that there wasn't a VIP area beforehand. Personally, I've only been to anime conventions before, but I definitely remember there being like guarded VIP rooms for the celebrities that were attending. What a shame. And because of the actions of a few people, you know, I'm sure some of these authors are never going to attend events publicly again, or at least not attend conventions where this sort of activity is happening. I can't imagine a book signing having something like this go on. And no one mentioned, like, because I remember the first time I went to a convention, I wasn't really into voice actors in particular, but I recognized Vic Mignogna's name on the program. And I was so excited. And then I found out it was like $100 even to shake his hand. So it's like, is that where we go from here? You have to pay to play after already paying to get into the event to spend like to even say hello to authors, because that provides a barrier of entry against people who are rude and taking advantage of the situation. Have you ever noticed this kind of behavior at book conventions? Do you think it's widespread, or do you think that the type of convention itself played a big role in what went down? Let me know in the comment section down below. That's all I have for now. I will see you next time.